Strut Nation, Teal Nation, we are pleased to introduce our guest tonight. We've been wanting to get Coach Gilmore on for a while. Coach, by way of introduction, 33 seasons as a head coach total, 1,293 wins, 27 at Coastal, 1,040 wins. Coach, 17 NCAA Division I regional appearances. You've advanced to the Super Regionals 3 times, 10 Big South regular season titles, 11 championship tournament titles, 2 Sun Belt regular season, 2 Sun Belt tournaments. Let me take a deep breath. 8 most wins in NCAA since 2001 with 885 victories. You've totaled 550-plus wins since 2001. 11 shots have either been a finalist or semifinalist for National Player of the Year. We've had 91 players, 85 total draft picks drafted, 125 players signed professional contracts. Oh, by the way, 2016 NCAA Division I national championships. But before all that, Coach Gilmore played center field for Coastal during the 79-80 seasons where, Coach, you hit 353, 69 steals in 90 games as a leadoff hitter. You finished in 1980. You played professionally for a while for the Phillies. Prior to that coaching career, you worked as a scout for the Mariners and the Cleveland Indians. But most importantly, you and your wife, Kathy, have a son, Chance, and a daughter, Samantha. 4 grandsons, Liam, Hank, Luke, and Shepard. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to introduce tonight Coach Gary Gilmore. Coach, welcome to the Strut Podcast.
I tell you what, looking at you three on my screen, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get beat up on this interview.
This is a safe place, Coach.
This is the Teal Trust tree, Coach. This is.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys for having me.
I tell you what, man, this is Coach. I've known since I was a small child, and Chili did the whole when you played back before. For those that watch our YouTube channel, when we drop this is probably sort of the jersey that you wore. This was my dad's coaching jersey in the 80s, right? So I'm not going to put it on because people know how I feel about South Carolina. I'm not putting anything garnet and black on. So, but back in the old days of when Coach Bruman,
black and the red, man,
black and the red days. But we're honored and privileged to have you on, Coach. This is awesome. We're covering baseball more so this year we ever have. I touched on that with text message. We were going to do it, but then we were definitely going to do it when you said this was your last ride. And man, it's an honor. I can't say that enough to have you on. I know Joe and Chili have some questions. We got some great stories, but first and foremost, we're going to talk about the past. We're going to talk about the present, and then we're going to talk about the excitement of 2023, man, or 2024, excuse me, and being nationally ranked in 4 or 5 polls. I know Chili's going to touch on that a little bit later. I know Joe's going to, if I know Joe's going to want to share that experience of being there and calling the World Series, and then having Matt call that last World Series. We had Matt on how many weeks ago, y'all? It was about a month ago now. We had him on.
It's been maybe longer than that. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer than that. And he touched on how they shared that moment where Joe was calling and then Matt came and Joe had to rush down to the field to get down there with you. So we look forward to getting through all those stories. And we're also going to open up a page in a book from 2008 and a guy named Big Juicy. But we'll get to him later on.
Yeah.
What a good preface, Edie.
Hey, we're going to have to put some movie ratings on this thing right here.
Well, Coach, if it's okay with you, I'll lead off here. After going through your resume, first off, I just want to say you're hired. Secondly, how do you go through and you see all the things and you hear the accomplishments and stuff? I know for you having at this point kind of reflecting on your career and this year coming up, but maybe as some advice to some people who are in your situation, what's the key to being humble through all that?
I mean, when to me, it's a lot of faith-based stuff for me, and realizing that, I'm just one small part of a cog in the wheel. When you start making yourself look too important, or feel like you're too important and you're bigger and better than other people in your organization that are out there with you. I mean, it's just not who I feel like I am, have ever been. I just, I've been able to surround myself with some incredible coaches and great people. And, it was all of us working together. There's no one person, I mean, heck, Nick Saban surrounds himself with incredible people. That's what makes him an incredible coach. He's obviously the leader of that group, but I mean, it's a deal where all working together and all having the same ideas and the same mission. It makes it all work. And people get to choose how they want to represent themselves. I just always been one that I realize that I'm just a piece of this piece. It just there's no way I would ever claim that well, I did this or I did that. It's always been we. I mean, no matter how you look at it, I think the only thing that I can ever say that I was a big part of, and maybe had the biggest part of this, was the fact that when I got hired here, I talked about going to Omaha to the committee, and it was I think they all thought I was smoking something real good when with where the program was at the time and where the school was and all that. But I had that dream, and it was something that I feel like if there's one thing that I did do that if you want to take credit a little bit, whatever. It's the fact that that dream to a large degree was my dream. I dreamt that we could make it to Omaha, and whether we won a national championship or not, just dreaming about getting to Omaha was such a big dream at Coastal Carolina. And so I think a lot of what I was able to do, surrounding myself with other people that could dream like me. That could see the big picture, that could see us playing in Omaha and competing at the highest level.
Coach, I remember when we were out there in Omaha, and before I ask you the question that I'm going to ask you, remember the morning of the championship game, the second morning, right? I mean, so we had to endure that weather delay, which I felt like we probably could have played that at some point, but they decided to call it off. And then we had interviewed you the night before for the radio broadcast. And I remember that morning I came back to you again because we were going to have a little bit of a change into who was going to be starting that day. We kind of wanted to, maybe get a little scoop on that. And I came up to you and you're like, there's just so much going on in the hotel that morning. I mean, the last thing you wanted to deal with was radio guys coming and asking you for stuff. But I mean, you've always been so gracious with your time with me or with Katz or Matt or Gary Griffith, whoever's been doing the games. And I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate that. Yeah, it speaks to the organization, a family feel, right? I mean, everybody has a part some way of what's going on. And I always appreciated that about you and how you've treated everybody around you, everybody who wears, the teal and the bronze and the black. But question I want to ask you is, why now? What is it about right now that has made you decide that after 28 seasons here at Coastal that this is going to be it? What was it that led you to this point now that 24 is going to be it?
I mean, I feel like we've been moving in that direction, Joe, for 2 or 3 years. I'm very appreciative and gracious that the university allowed me to continue to do this job with my cancer challenges and all the things that I go through. And, being totally honest, I mean, I've had to lean on and things, my staff way more since all this has happened than I have for years and years. And, I just feel like, Kevin's been very loyal and worked very hard. And, and so has the rest of that staff to have a chance to advance some guys in positions and do things. And, I mean, 29 years at Coastal, 10 years at Aiken. It's 39 years. I mean, not a whole lot of guys are blessed to, be around 18 to 22, 23-year-olds and survive that long in coaching and be able to experience the things that I have, and with some of the challenges I feel like I have health-wise, Joe, I want to get to know my grandkids as good as I can. Yeah. Just feel like that's important. I've spent my whole life being with other people's kids, and I mean, heck, and not like I didn't spend time with my own, but I mean, there were, way more times I picked baseball and the other people's kids over my own kids. And I just, I just Kathy and I just, kind of felt like, she would do whatever, but at the end of the day, I think she's very, very happy that, at least knock on wood today, right here and now, I'm healthy enough to, hopefully get through this season and then, have some time hopefully many years, but you just, I've learned to not take a day for granted anymore. And I appreciate them all. And, I don't try to even though I think way out in the future, most of everything I try to do is right here and now, because I just, I have no idea what tomorrow brings, none of us do at the end of the day, but, especially in my situation, you got 2 different kinds of cancer going on. You got, you got all kinds of messes going on, but yet, honestly, for the most part, I feel really good. And, I just want to enjoy it. And, again, 39 years, man, 39 years is a long time. Nothing, and I've been very blessed that, like I said, that the university's given me the opportunity to be the coach here for 29 years.
I'll offer this. I think the spouse or the wife is always one that never gets enough attention. Miss Kathy and my mama, in that role the same way that I'm sure she was a lot like my mama, where there were some baseball jerseys washed on some road trips and some hotel laundromats more than once. And so I can empathize with that. Coach, I want to take opportunity. There's kind of 3 areas I know we want to hit on, but I want to go back. You touched on that first season about what you wanted to do and the story when we went to Omaha. And I don't want to not give its value and its time in this, but I want to make sure we build up to understand how we got to 16 as quickly as we can in a podcast, but then where we are looking at in 2024. But from your first season, when you got here up until Omaha, I don't think people realize that the baseball operations was in a mobile home, single wide mobile home. And I remember that, yeah. So for those who didn't know, our now national championship baseball, top 25 baseball program literally started its baseball operations. Most of it was in a single wide mobile home out beyond left field. And hey, 40 years growing up on that campus, you don't forget certain things. And so Walt, if you can, I guess in an abbreviated format, that first season's expectations to where 2016 is, and then I've got a complimentary question to that.
Okay. So say that again. Like what?
So your expectations that first year where you said we're going to go to Omaha.
Yeah.
And but then looking around at the facilities, because you touched on that when they went to World Series. I think Joe, Chili, y'all remember that they talked about how we started in a mobile home, and we didn't have the adequate hitting cages, or we didn't. The field now to what we see now in the Palace is not what it was in the 80s and early 90s, right? So kind of walk us through time for those that are not acutely aware of the history of not only coastal baseball.
Yeah. Well, shoot, Trav, there are a lot of defining moments along those years. When I first got there, we went through 2 losing seasons, and we weren't very good. And, a group of kids decided we redshirted a whole bunch of guys the second year. And, we had a ton of really good freshmen moving forward in year 3. And we finally started getting a teeny bit better. Coach Snall was a part of that team, and Ronnie Dubell, who ended up having a very good career for us, and we had a bunch of really good freshman kids that started to turn the corner. Year 3, we made it to the conference championship, and started to turn some things. But all along the way, it was just everything had to change. To be honest, the playing surface had become so terrible. There would be people. Only people that were a part of this could understand it. You could hit a routine fly ball into the outfield, and the entire ball would plug into the ground. It would go 3 and some inches into the ground. All right, and over the majority of the outfield, it was so riddled with mole crickets and everything else. Because what had happened is, the university had, and I understand how in our university these things happen. they got used to the Toronto Blue Jays taking care of that field. Well, when they left, they forgot that, those guys were doing a lot of stuff to keep the field up. Well, they didn't do it. And within 2 years of them being gone, I mean, that field was a mess. I mean, I never forget pulling up to do my interview for the job. I walked out to the field and the batting cage, when I pulled in there, the batting cage, you couldn't have been over about 4.5 feet tall and stood because the creosote poles have bent in so far that the net was so low that only T-ball type kids could be in the thing. So I'm like, holy cow, this is not the coastal I remember, from when I played. And so there were a lot of things we had to overcome, to be honest. And I mean, it all came down to people, I mean, getting people to help you. Mike Pruitt, heck man, he helped us build a clubhouse there on third base that really made a huge difference when, we were starting to try to move forward. And, Coach Fruman put money into the field and helped us redo it. I mean, we had a lot of things. And then, I mean, the amounts of people that pitched in to help us in, 2014, 15, when we were building the stadium. I mean, obviously, Tammy Brooks and her family were, the big instrumental piece, but there were so many other people, in the wings. I mean, Steve Keener helped us with Musco with the lighting. We largely got most of that almost for free. So, I mean, there's just so many different pieces to the puzzle that help move us forward, and I mean, obviously came down to players buying in. You look at 2005 and, we are our top 16 seed and we get sent to Arizona State because we don't have a stadium to play in.
That's right.
And, that was Mike Costanza's there and Chris Todd and all those guys. I mean, we had some really good players. And then, 2008, we ended up having to go to North Carolina and play in probably the hottest games I've ever played in my life. And, and then 2010, we were, and I don't think I have ever or could ever coach a more talented all around team than that team. And, it's just kind of funny sometimes, how the world works. That team ended up having, I think, 5 big leaguers on it. And, we get beat by South Carolina, who has, a generational team of their own. And, then you turn around at 16 and, you have a group of guys that just, a lot of them have played together their whole life. The core group of guys have been around each other, and their relationships and friendships really created so much of what made that so special, to be honest. I mean, they were an incredibly talented team. Just they got the most out of their ability when it mattered. They somehow found a way to always make it happen, and it just was such a, both those teams especially were just fun rides to be a part of. I mean, they were just so talented, but they loved playing. They enjoyed each other. I mean, as a coach, you coach those teams. I mean, you don't have one single bad day ever. It doesn't matter. All days are good. For the most part. What you go through that. I think the only thing we struggled with in 16 was that one weekend in Atlanta when we get swept. But it was amazing. And just had a couple conversations with Drew and said, hey man, I want to do this, and can you live with me moving our rotation around and doing this and that, and and here's my rationale for it. And I told him, I said, listen, I said Cunningham is he's kind of like a one pitch guy to a large degree, high spin fastball, and he's gonna come right at you. And you give us 2-3 days to prepare for that guy, we can figure out a way to try to hit him and beat him. I said Beckwith is he's the wild card, because there's no one. You can put a scouting report together, but you can't duplicate how he pitches and what he does. You don't ever see it. And man, the second we did that, I mean, we went on just a hellacious tear from that point on. It was unbelievable. And
that was a rally monkey too, right? Was that where we picked a rally? Joe's honoring the rally monkey tonight.
Yeah.
Rafiki, absolutely.
Yeah, Joe's wearing my favorite shirt.
Just for you, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was those were the good days, man. I tell you what, that's I think if there's anything I'm gonna miss, it's that stuff. That you can't, that old that commercial about certain things in life being priceless. That experience we had there for those days is not just for the team and the players, but for the fans, the people around, the whatever. That's those were about 2 weeks of priceless every single day. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Now the pivot question was going to be is now we've gotten 2016. I know Joe and Chili want to take it a little bit there, and we'll get to 2024's expectations. But in the home regional, when we finally got to host it, and we had Alabama. It was Alabama, Columbia,
Alabama, Columbia, and East Carolina.
And what a great regional from an atmosphere. But you told the story, and I've heard you tell it before, Coach. But there's two stories from that regional that I think our listeners need to really hear. One's a very nostalgic, out of respect, fantastic story. The other one, it's just nostalgia.
I love
Tell
it.
us those two stories, Coach.
Well, I know the one, which is the nostalgia one.
The respectful nostalgia one is the Alabama coach and what he talked about your program in our stadium and our fans and that energy. But the other one was about a certain football coach of ours.
Oh, no doubt. I'll tell you what, that was that night on that Saturday night against Alabama, probably at least on our campus in the sport of baseball. That was probably the biggest moment in the history of our school playing baseball at that point in time. And two things I remember out of that specifically. One is Tommy Baldridge's home run that brought us all the way back from being behind. That we trailed the whole entire game. Every time we made a run, they'd make another one, and it was just a unbelievable thing. They had an All-American closer, and we absolutely hammered him all over the park. And that was one of the coolest moments ever, for me as a coach in that game particularly. And then, Coach Wells, being in the SEC and longtime coach at Alabama, I met him and got to be friends with him when I was on the road. And he calls me on Sunday, on their way after they left and got beat Sunday morning. He gives me a call and he said, Coach, I'm going to tell you right now. He said, I know it wasn't as many people per se. He said, but the atmosphere at your place last night, he said, we played at LSU. We have played at A&M, two of the toughest places in the country to play. And he goes, you guys ain't playing hind fiddle to them dudes at all. He said, my kids were as intimidated as I've ever seen them. He said, your crowd had a lot to do with the fact that you guys won. He said, you got a really good team. He said, but your fans affected my players, which was a really cool thing to see. I never seen it like that in Coastal Carolina, to be very not in baseball. Never seen it. But I mean, it was really neat for me. Coach Bennett and I were really good friends, and he was over by the dugout, and anybody that was there or whatever ever heard the story. I mean, there was a big umpire. He was a fairly large man, but he was also fairly overweight. And, Coach Bennett started on him from the first pitch. It was he caught it. We got out of the first inning. He already nicknamed him Big. And Big Juice took an ass whooping that night. I'm gonna tell you right now, he got eaten alive.
he gave him hell for the whole night.
I guarantee that guy went home because I am never going back to that place ever again. Because he absolutely torched the whole night. I mean, we're over there coaching the most intense games of my life, and I'm down there dying laughing because I can hear everything saying, man. It was hilarious.
Hey, I tell you what, the energy in that place, you're right. But Coach Bennett and Big Juicy, the Coach Bennett Big Juicy story If we get Coach Bennett back on again, guys, I'm gonna bring that up just to
Oh,
see
you
his.
got to, man. I guarantee he's gotten that. There's no way. I guarantee he's on it.
Oh man.
And here's the bad part: is I get to ask a question now, and I got to try to follow a big juicy story. So I want to do the best I can, Coach.
Yeah.
My question is kind of maybe like state of the program today, and maybe going forward is: have you seen a difference in how high school players get recruited now, and not just in terms of like NIL stuff, like just in general, like the attitude of the players nowadays versus when you first started, and how's that changed over the years as far as they go?
Mm.
I mean, I don't think the kids are any different. I mean, the culture and environment they come from and expect to walk into is different. You know, kids were just appreciative to get an opportunity to play. And when I first started, you know, it was like, okay, man, I can play Division I. Show me how to do this stuff. Now you're getting into more highly recruited players and kids that, you know, that freshmen that can come in and be impactful. You know, when I first started, freshmen we were able to get at Coastal Carolina were very few were impactful their first year. I mean, we redshirted probably 3/4 of the guys that played for us that were young because they just, you know, we just went out and tried to find athletic, good kids that were good athletes, and we just tried to rep them and coach them into being great baseball players. You know, if they were a great baseball player at that point in time where the program was and things like that, I mean, you know, we weren't getting in the mix of the kind of players we're getting right now. We couldn't even get them to return a phone call at that point in time. So, you know, we had to, you know, we had to figure out how to do that. And today's players, I mean, they're awesome kids. They, you know, they just, you know, more of them are able to help you and are ready to play now because we've gotten better. The program's gotten better. We're able to attract kids that are further along in development than what it was when we first started. And, you know, they just want to play. It's just the formula that we used back when I started, I don't personally think works anymore because with the NIL and the portal, getting a kid to be patient 3 years to try to develop them, I just don't think you're going to see it. You know, I mean, you know, either the kid isn't good enough to help you and it takes too long to develop them, or they're too good and you can't hold them back. You have to play them and do things. And, you know, I don't, you know, I don't envy what they've got to try to figure out what the new niche is for Coastal Carolina, because there's going to be a new niche. They have to figure that piece out. Where is it at? Is it junior college or whatever? We can't compete in the portal. We can't do it. You know, we just can't do it. We don't have, you know, we go after, if there's a guy that's, let's say we need a weekend starter. I mean, you know, I mean, weekend starters are, you know, if they're any good, they're getting, I mean, on the bottom end, 50 grand on top of full scholarship. You know, I mean, that's the bottom of the barrel right there. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, we just can't do that. So, you know, how we figured out, you know, I feel like, you know, junior college is a niche we can really hammer moving forward. But, you know, again, it's, you know, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, we've talked about it so many times in the office, like, you know, just what is the niche? You know, I think the high school piece is great. It just, you know, I mean, who knows, man? You know, I'm not going to name names by any means, but you know, you look at all the good freshmen we had last year now that are sophomores. You know, if they all have great years, you know, I don't care how much they respect you, love you, this and that. You know, it's like Liam Doyle. All, you know, I mean, heck, man, it ticked me off. Yep. No doubt about it, right? But you know, if it was any of you all's sons and they could get a full scholarship and $100 grand a year, I mean, yet at Coastal here I'll give you a 75% scholarship because we only have 11.7. You know, I can't afford the full ride you and this guy and that guy and this guy because you're all good. Yeah. Then we're not going to be good. You know, so I mean, I be honest with you, you know, heck, I'm very appreciative of the, you know, the group of guys that put the NIL collective together for us, and at least gave us a fighting chance to hang on to a few of these young players. I just don't know where it's going to stop. To be honest, I don't know how mid-major schools survive at a super high level. I mean, these guys that are in on all the committees and stuff, we keep adding numbers to our roster. Well, I mean, the more they add to the roster, there's the less really good ones to go around, and that's I wish the roster was going the other way. Let's get down to 32 instead of going to 40, because I mean 32 is plenty enough players, and it gives there's extra 8 guys that aren't in Power 5 schools give a place like this a way better fighting chance. But I don't think any of them want us to have a fighting chance. I feel like that's the crux of this whole thing to begin with is, how can they ultimately nudge out Coastal Carolinas of the world in football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And, that basically, 2-3 conferences are going to take the whole thing.
Yeah, there's got to be some guardrails put on it. I think it's coming because Joe and Steve and I have talked about this and addressed this too. And I know Joe's going to touch on it a little bit, but potentially touch on it. But the NIL portal piece, now that it's finally hit I'll wait till Joe had to step away real quick because Joe, can you hear me now? We were talking about NIL and portal. Now that Georgia and Alabama and Texas now that these schools at a football level and some of those schools at a basketball level, the Blue Bloods, now that they're starting to feel not just a pinch, they're really feeling it, at a high impact level where a 5-star kid comes in and within one semester he hits the portal and goes to Alabama from Georgia to Alabama. It's finally starting to hit them now that I see Joe smile and Chili smile. It's starting to hit them. It's going to take another year or two of that, in my humble opinion, Dad, or talking to my dad and talking to other folks, that's what it's going to take, Coach. Finally, then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now that it's hitting the top 10 or 15 schools in the country across all the platform of athletics, maybe we should put some guardrails in. And that's when it's going to finally, hopefully materialize into something that it was intended to do, which was not penalize a kid for going somewhere. And I think you would agree. They go somewhere. It's just not, you've had to have that conversation. Travis, I love you, buddy, but you're the third baseman. You're a good kid. You work hard. We just don't have a place for you, but you can transfer to fill in the blank school and play. And I'm going to call that coach and say, he's a good kid. He just couldn't make it on the field for us. Yeah. That's what it was intended to do. And that's not what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, I don't begrudge the players for, the money piece. I mean, hey, Travis, you're a football guy, and heck, if I ever do anything, continue moving forward that involves me in the NCAA in something or whatever. I mean, I've had several conversations with Coach Mowgli. I'd love to fight for baseball, and people don't realize that high sport we have 40 guys on a roster and 11.7 scholarships. So this is the piece that's so amazing. I watched the podcast here a while back, and this guy was talking about that baseball is not a non-revenue sport, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, hell, I got to listen to this. How does he figure that piece out? How are these dudes making money? And well, his point was well taken. Well, listen to it, because we went back and did it at our school. If you add up, you take the 11.7 away from the 40 guys, you take 11.7 guys and put them out to the side, and you count what the others pay to go to school, we pay like $1.3 million to the university. Our guys do, just on my team. So we're paying that much money. So we're not a non-revenue sport. We are adding value to our university that really, to a large degree, is covering the majority of salaries and the majority of your operating budget. I mean, so at the end of the day, a place like Coastal where we actually draw crowds and do things. I mean, when it's all said and done, you can actually look at it and go, well, heck, we're in the black here. Yeah. We're not in the red costing people money when you really look at it in that aspect or whatever. And I, that's the whole thing with me is instead of NIL, I'll be honest with you, in baseball, I truly believe this. If you gave us 35 scholarships so that everyone didn't have to pay, I don't think you would see very much movement in the portal at all. Not from your better players. I think most guys that go to school, the majority of them are happy for the most part. And if they weren't paying a dime to go to school, I think only 25% of what you see in the portal now that are decent players that can garner NILs of any value.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would see most of them stay where they're at. I really do. I don't think you'd see any leave Coastal. I really don't. But again, I can't blame I can't blame a guy that can can make legitimate money. Man, it's hard. If you can make $100,000, that's a lot of money. I don't care who you are. And instead of paying $100,000 in loans back or whatever, you can make $100,000 put in your pocket.
Coach, quick memory from 2016, then a question for you. Since you kind of touched on a little bit about what happened, and we could do like 3 or 4 podcasts on those 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Really, honestly, I mean, we could sit here and talk about this, but you're talking about great memories out there of championship day of the dog pile. Anthony Marks making the play out there to keep the guy at third.
Yeah.
Really, I should have scored, but he didn't because of that play. And, GK knocking one out and AC striking the guy out. The memory that I have. No matter how much longer I do Coastal broadcasting or whatever, obviously most of my stuff's been involved with football, but one of the ones that's always going to be right there at the top of the list of memories of Coastal athletics was Mikey Moe walking off the field to a standing O. I mean, I've told this to a lot of people, but that to me, that entire place was on their feet when we had to have a guy, not a starter, first start ever for him, when we had to have a guy go out there and do something and get us to the championship. He goes out there and gets it done and comes off to a standing O on the game's biggest stage. I mean, that was absolutely. I still, it still just, it still resonates what he did in that game and how the crowd reacted when he came out of there. But just an incredible moment to be a part of. And then, to kind of transition, talk about 2024.
Yeah, man.
What's coming up this season? I mean, we're ranked in all the polls. There's a lot of expectations. Your last ride, this is going to be a pretty good club. Give us a preview of what we're going to see.
I mean, there's, going to be, 5 or 6 returning position players that you watched all year last year. And, there'll be a influx of, 2, 3 guys, a couple of guys that played just a little bit last year, kind of in the mix to be in starting roles. Our biggest challenges right now are, who ultimately is going to win the job at short, who's ultimately going to be our center fielder, who's going to be our left fielder, starting pitching. And, for me, the biggest one is of all of it is who's going to eventually be a guy that can play Mike Morrison or can play Teddy Sharkey. 2 years ago, heck, we had the 3 really good starters, and hell, you can sit there and for 6 innings you can smoke a cigar and kick your feet up. Hit the whiskey bottle real hard.
Easy street, Coach. It was easy street for 6 innings.
No anxiety at all. No. But I think that's going to be the biggest question marks of this team is how quickly someone develops into those roles and who we actually go with to do those things. I mean, I just the pitching staff has ability. It's just where you plug the pieces, who or what roles they're in, and a lot of times guys it's not just ability. It's their personality and their makeup. I mean. Some guys can have Teddy Sharkey and Mike Morrison stuff, but they don't like to pitch in the 8th and 9th inning. They don't like to be the quarterback making that last drive in the last 2 minutes to win the game. They're way more comfortable getting you to that point. And so I don't think any of us had those answers. That's going to be some of the trial and error we have to go through as a group. And I think we have a couple guys that can develop into great back into the game guys. Is just to put them in that role right from the very get go is probably not advantageous, to be honest with you. I think it was 2008. We had that regional team. It was really good. I mean, Nick McCulley pitched as a Tuesday, Wednesday starter the whole entire year,
That's
and then
right.
and we put him in the bullpen. And, here's a guy that was 89 to 91, 92 as a starter. And heck, you put him in at the end of the game late in the year, kid was 94, 95. Really good. And, but he had 50 innings under his belt. He had he was ready for that then. If we'd have done that in the beginning, I don't think he would have been ready for it. And really kind of gave us a shot in the arm at that point in time. And, I can see a guy or two on this team that have the potential for big arms that could be in the mid 90s or even a tick better than that could finish some games for us. But they at this point they've never thrown a pitch for us at Coastal Carolina. So it's hard to just roll that guy out there that, in all honesty, has never ever done that. They've started their whole life. They don't have any concept of, holy cow, I got to walk in here and there's no margin for error. There's, I got everything I do has got to happen in one inning and about 15 pitches. And, it's just, you have to mold that guy into that piece. You just don't roll out of bed and have it, I mean, Teddy had the mentality, but it took him 3 years,
It did.
really be a guy. And, heck, if he had the season he had last year, if he'd have had that season the year before, that team goes to Omaha. That team had 3 starting guys. If he'd have been an All-American closer like he was last year, we go to Omaha. You think about how many games we lost in 22 late in the game.
Yep.
We couldn't hang on to them. I mean, we'd have won 10 more games. Easy. We'd have been in the low 50s for sure, because he'd have easily got 10, 12 saves. That team was in position to win so many games we couldn't hang on to. We just couldn't do it. So, hopefully this team will. I mean, I'm very optimistic. It's a great group of kids. I mean, they are fantastic young men. They, enjoy going to practice every day. They work very hard, and look forward to turning them loose here in another 3 weeks.
Coach, have you got anybody on the schedule you circled? I'm not asking you to give anybody bulletin board material, but have you looked kind of ahead and gone, is there somebody on the schedule we really, really make sure we gotta do it? I know obviously conference opponents are, but is there anybody else maybe outside of the conference you're really looking forward to getting on the field against?
Yeah, I need to have a long talk with that idiot that made this schedule. So, let's see, we got to play the number 1 team in the country twice. We got to play the number 10 team twice. We got, I mean, you look at who all we're playing, and you can just kind of throw a dart at the whole thing, to be very honest with you. I mean, I feel like, all of our midweek games are tough. And, you look at weekend 1, 3 teams were in the regionals. 1 beat us to play in a super regional. I know Liberty will be very good. Michigan will be very good. You got Ball State, who was in the playoffs the year before in one of those weekends too. So I mean, all of that, and then you got home and home with Wilmington, and couple with North Carolina, and you got NC State. I mean, man, there ain't. It's hard. It's hard for us to sit and go, okay, well, this is a defining moment. I don't know that there's a game on there that you just circle and go, well, this is the holy grail of the schedule right here. It's just there's just too many tough teams. Our league has become very good. Good when we first got in it, but now it's become even better. And I think for us, the benchmark is, can we get consistency? One thing that marked last year's team, they won every single weekend. I don't think I've ever coached a team that did that. That was an incredible mark on them, especially with the injuries. I mean, we lost Potok, we lost Mo about 2/3 through the year. It just, we lost guy after guy. Heck, even in last year's regionals, heck, if Morrison would have not gone down, the extra pitcher we needed, that was him. we would have had another guy. And so, it just, we'll just have to see. I think for us, it's just, can we just gain momentum? At the end of the day in our sport, it's nice getting the playoffs, but you got to be riding the wave when you get there. You got to be really good. You got to be able to, the areas I felt like last year one of our greatest weaknesses, at times was our defensive numbers didn't show it. As far as errors made and things, we were fairly close to where we had been. But now you have all these new metrics you can look at. And our outfield defense was, we were decimated with some injuries from some really athletic quick speed guys. Not throwing everyone under the bus, but just our skill set out there for just playing great defense outfield wise is far below what we had grown accustomed to. And even infield wise, we caught balls, and as far as errors being assigned and all that, but it's you go from Remillard at third and Paez at short and Lancaster at second, and Woody and guys over there at first, Chadwick over there. I mean, that team and Billy Cook in center field, and those kind of OL in center. I mean, we had gotten used to having some of the best catchers, shortstops, and center fielders in the country, and we just weren't quite there. I had to ask Nick Lucky last year because of injuries to basically play a spot that his skill set was not super advantageous for him to be in center field. He was an All-American defender as a left fielder, but not as a center fielder. And it just, those things we didn't catch a lot of balls we should catch. We went to Louisiana. They had the number one defensive outfield in the country. And I mean, I'm telling you right now, man, every time we hit a ball, I mean, you're going, yeah. And you look up thinking, damn, they just run that ball down, and for years we had become accustomed to that, quite as good. And we have worked our rear ends off to be better out there, so hopefully we can put some guys out there that, that can help us. I mean, part of anytime your pitching isn't exactly what you want it to be, you have got to be better on the defensive side, big time. You've got to be able to cover more grounds. You got to make more plays. You've got to control the running game. You got to do all the little things, to help your pitching staff. And, last year we didn't do enough of that. And we've got to be better. For us to have a chance to go back to Omaha, we got to be better in all those areas.
So the one thing that I'll add as a fan, there are a few series that I'll kind of dovetail in what Chili said, and then we'll get back to some this year's expectations. But I think Louisiana at home in your last year is pretty cool, right? Great program there, just like ours. Right. Yeah, Louisiana at home. I think Troy at home. Obviously, the big name, the brand name, regional rivalries between the NC States, North Carolina, the Clemsons. Yeah. But I'm gonna be honest with you, having Liberty here for a 3-game set to renew that old school rivalry. Last time I checked, I think we kicked their ass in the conference tournament to get that whole Omaha streak rolling, if I remember correct. So I look forward to extinguishing the flames sometime in March. So I look forward to that series. But I think to the fans, there's always those midweek games that we get primed up for. But the Louisiana, Troy, Liberty, Michigan, those are some regional and national brand names that I think is going to – those are – I know, Coach, knowing you, every game matters, right? Because you've been in those big ones. You don't circle them. But to Chili's point, those are some ones for a fan and a kid that grew up watching the program. I'm real excited to see those series, especially Louisiana. And I'll add one thing. Trying to work on getting a group. I'm working with Neil and some other folks to go this year to Southern Miss. That's another great, incredible atmosphere in our conference too.
Oh, yeah. We will have to practice keeping our thoughts collected during I already know them dudes. I guarantee they've circled our weekend when we come in there. I guarantee it. And that'll be a really good test for us too, because I mean they lost some guys. I mean they lost some key guys a year ago, but I'm sure they will knowing them and the quality of the recruits that they are able to get and the backing that they have is, they'll be loaded for bear again. I do think Coach Berry and I got to be really good friends. And one of the things that just amazed me last year, I would talk quite a bit, and he told me, because it blew me away, that before they ever threw the first pitch last year, I think this is the right number, 4,400 season tickets sold before they ever threw a pitch. And you're like you couldn't buy any general admission tickets. You either got the season package or you didn't get in. And I'm like, holy cow, man! That's an incredible thing. But it's like he told me, he said it's all great as long as we win. He said when we don't win, them 44 are giving me hell. So so I get it. And I look at how too. I'm proud of how we've grown our fan base in baseball has grown just exponentially over the years. I mean, it's really been cool to see. I mean, didn't work out in our favor, but those crowds we had against last year at the regional or whatever. I mean, couldn't ask for a community and the university to support more than they did.
Sensational crowd. That last Duke game, unfortunately, didn't go our way, but I mean, you couldn't move. I mean, you couldn't move in that place. It's like, man, there's so many people here. There's so much energy. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was. No, it was one of the coolest atmospheres in the history of that place.
Yep. Coach, if you're a player in 2024, what's your walk-up song?
Oh, there you go. Now let's get to the fun questions. I like that, Chili.
Let's see. Maybe a little Sammy Hagar, I Can't Drive 55.
Okay. All right. Now, Coach, would you have been a glove, wristband? Kind of walk me through what your uniform attire would have looked like in today's world. How would you get, as prime time would say, look good, feel good, play good? How would you look good?
Just plain Jane, man. Just go out and play. Little war paint on and ready to go.
There you go. Coach, who are you? What are one or two guys? I know you don't like to do an individual. What are one or two guys that you're just real excited about their development, maybe since last year or since you've got them on campus that you're, like you said, you're ready to let these guys get unleashed? What are maybe one or two guys that Teal Nation and everybody at the Palace here very, very soon, a couple weeks, going to be like, wow, that kid's pretty special. He's got something going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have very blessed. We have two of the best catchers in the entire country, and Bodine and Bender, and Bo's just a sophomore, and Bendy's a junior. That I mean, if he can have a great year, he should be a very significant draft pick guy moving forward. I'll be honest, of our team now, I look for Zach Beach to have a career year this time, and I think he's a guy that has a very distinct possibility hitting 25 home runs. Graham Brown, no doubt in my mind, he can be has room to have a career year. He put some really good numbers together last year, but his batting average and the strikeout piece that probably kept him from being drafted. I know he's worked really, really hard with that part and becoming a significantly better outfielder too. I mean, he's come a million miles. Barthel's going to be a guy for sure. Sam Antonassi, transfer kid from up in Illinois, is a junior college up there, is a national junior college player of the year last year. I do believe he'll have a, I think he's going to be a tick different player, but I look for him to give us a lot of the excitement in how he plays, similar to Peyton Eels and how he played. I mean, he's a more all around talented infielder. I do think I'm not sure. I don't know if even though athletically they're very similar. Eelsy had a little bit of redneck confidence in himself as a base runner and base stealer, which he got. And I'm looking Sammy to kind of come out and really let that part go. He has the skill set to do it. But I do think he's going to be a really good offensive player, really good hitter. I think he's got a chance. Hoping that Mijos, I'm not sure, we working him some, a lot at short, a little bit in center field. I hope he can have a breakout year too. I mean, he's a guy that's so athletic and do so many things. You got Barthel, that will move from third to second. Barthel's I think one of the best all around hitters in the country. The guy is just an absolute hitting machine, and playing second base is natural position. Hopefully he can really blossom. And look, we have right-handed pitcher Meckley from junior college from Potomac State in West Virginia. I mean, he's up to 80, 98, 99 miles an hour in the fall. I think he's got a chance to, we just got to figure out what his role is. He's a big human being, kind of like Big Mike was a couple years ago. And, I can see him, being a good 6-7 inning guy every outing and give you a chance to win. He's got strikeout stuff, and but he also could be a dominating closer if he could do it on 2-3 times a week or whatever. Just he's never done that. And I don't know, don't know if we're going to ultimately have to ask him to be that guy or not. But hopefully we can use him as a starter for the beginning and just chew up some innings. And try to figure some other things out. But I'm hoping Eichhoff can be a guy that has a breakout. He ended last season on a high note and had a pretty good summer in the Cape. I hope he can, be a kind of a rock on those weekends, depending on where he ultimately falls, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or whatever. Just can he be a guy that can, give us 80, 90 innings over the course of the year?
Coach, best Coastal-esque name ever. We'll throw a couple at you. You give me a different one if I don't hit on one. How about Brett Grandstrand? Zach Beach, you just mentioned him. How about Teddy Sharkey, maybe? The best Coastal name ever that you've had.
Oh, shoot, man. That's that you put me on the spot now. I got to meet him.
I love Brett Grandstrand. I think that's a perfect name for this place. Perfect.
What's that?
Brett Grandstrand. I always loved that name,
No, you're 100% right. Yeah. No. I had to think on that one, Joe, for a minute. I'll be honest with you.
I should have prepped you for that one.
Yeah. Gilly, we got to put a poll question out, man. Put those 3 names out there. Put an other so people could fill in.
Yeah.
A great.
I
We'll
think I'll do that
once on Twitter.
Yeah, once we finish up with the recording tonight, Coach, we'll have to tweet that one out and see what Teal Nation and Strut Nation say about it.
What people are thinking too. Yeah.
Grandstrand is going to be pretty hard to beat.
Oh yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I first heard that name, Coach, I'm like, is that his real last name or somebody just messing with me on the radio? That's what I first thought.
Yeah. I tell you what, he ended up turned out to be a good little player for us.
Yes, he did.
Really did.
Yeah.
Crappy little dude, couldn't have weighed 150 pounds, man. Oh cow. Yeah, me Coach reminds me of him a whole lot. Very similar type players. Very similar.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on. I mean, just having you with us and some of the stories you've shared with us tonight and some of your insight about your career and what we have coming up this season is we are so appreciative. And I know our podcast audience and Teal Nation is going to just love hearing this because I'll be honest with you. I would love it if you came back at the end of the season so maybe we can do kind of some reflection and maybe just talk to you some more about the season and, further back in your career. But Coach, I mean, this has been one of my favorite episodes just because how you are and what you've shared with us tonight. And the word that comes to my mind when we talk about Coach Gilmore is going to be cornerstone because you've been doing it so well for so long and set a standard for Coastal athletics and baseball in particular for such a long time. I'm proud to say that I'm an alumni with you as well. So we had just really enjoyed this hour. We've had a chance to talk to you, Coach.
Well, listen, I deeply appreciate it. I'm honored that you have me on here. And, I did just think of something, though. I'll be very honest with you guys, right? We try to think of something to do to raise some NIL money.
Mm.
We need to have one of these that's a pay-per-view, no opportunity to record it. And it can be R-rated or X-rated. It just tell stories. I guarantee you we can make $100,000 off this thing.
Oh,
Coach,
man.
Coach, may I ask a question about that, just for clarification?
That's
I'm
a
gonna write
great-
some notes.
That's a great
And
idea,
TD,
man.
TD and Joe will testify that once I get a little bit of an idea, I can kind of roll with it. But let me ask you a quick question, Coach. Do we invite former players to kind of tell stories too, or no?
They have to pay $1,000 a piece to roast my ass. And I guarantee you, you'd make a buttload of money. Oh, yeah.
You know
What
what?
an awesome idea.
That's actually a fantastic idea. You have to pay for however long you're on. Like if you need 5 minutes, that's $500. Like you get it's $100 a minute.
You got a whole group of kids from Aiken that were just jumping all over that too, man. Because they got me when I was young and it was really bad.
I think me and Joe and TD could handle being moderators or co-moderators for that, Coach. We'll go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Oh
on that
man,
for you.
I could
The roast of Gary Gilmore.
Hey, that's a nice thing. I'll have an orange jumpsuit with a bunch of numbers on it.
That's great. Hey, we'll have to preface it with if it may fringe on an NCAA violation, we're going to need you to not say anything. Second, Mike Costanzo would probably pay for an hour. Listen,
there's some guy. Roberto Hernandez. I mean, heck, man, Bert. You know, heck, he made a bunch of millions of dollars. I'm not sure he wouldn't pay close to $1 million to just wear my butt out. So, you know, I mean, it's funny when they all come to the games and they hang around my wife. I mean, she comes home and like, I didn't know that story. I didn't know that one. I'm going, damn. I had hoped them things were buried forever. But them boys get up there on the concourse. It's amazing what comes up.
Coach, the big question I think would be is if Travis, Joe, or myself, if we could locate Big Juicy, how much do you think that would cost us?
Oh,
I want you to bring him back.
we need to bring him back.
Show up.
And then have Coach Bennett all of a sudden pop up on the screen and see if he gets like a reaction real quick, you know, just like, oh,
yeah. You hear him now, Big Joseph. Joseph. Oh yeah. No.
Oh man.
My favorite moments in my 29 years of Coastal was that game and him by the dugout. It was absolutely priceless.
I feel like we need to do a poll like Greater Coastal Moment 2016 championship or Coach Bennett versus Big
Juicy.
That might be a good poll question.
There's 2 poll questions right there. And then
there we go.
And if you don't know who Big Juicy is, just listen to the podcast.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Coach, thank you so much, man.
Well, Coach, we appreciate
awesome.
your time. It's
right,
been great. It's been an honor.
Hey,
we appreciate you, Coach.
Don't hesitate. I'm happy to do it anytime we can do it again. It's a lot of fun. Brings back a lot of great memories.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
Hope we get to spend some time in Omaha one more.
Omaha.
Well, that's
right field out there in Blatz. I'd love to go get me a $17 Miller Lite one more time.
Absolutely, no doubt. $17. I wonder why my damn credit card was so high. Holy cow! My wife and kids said, "Hey, the hell! I had to get out a loan to get out of Omaha."
Oh,
holy
man!
But that plane ride back was something else. I know that.
Yes. That's gonna be for that pay-per-view.
I'll never forget because I'm thinking, man, it's damn in the middle of the night, and I'm going. I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna be really disappointed. We get back and there ain't 5 people to meet us when we get back there. I said, this is gonna be really discouraging for the kids. And I never forget when they opened the door. Marks had asked me, he says, Coach, do you mind if I grab this trophy and can I be the first one out? And I said, absolutely. I said, go for it, Anthony. And I never forget. He looked around the corner out of the thing and saw all those thousands of people there. He turned around with me. He said, "Holy shit, Coach!" He said, "You ain't gonna believe this, man." That's more people in my whole hometown. So,
that was an amazing reception. Amazing.
I tell you what, there was dudes hanging over the bridges and stuff when we went. It was the the most surreal return that you could ever imagine for a
It
group.
was awesome.
Downtown
Unbelievable.
Conway was insane when the parade came down here, man. It was nuts. People hanging off of buildings and
Oh yeah,
restaurant roofs and light poles and
oh yeah.
you know that I'll add this little funny. So the game was on that Thursday, right? It's afternoon. So I was sick. I called my boss, said, "Look, I don't feel good." He goes, "You don't have to tell me. I know you're watching the game. Go ahead, just work from home." Work from home. When we won, I went out to the corner of 9th and Main, and I had an air horn and a flag just waving it. And there's a woman from 3 houses down comes. She goes, "I watched the game too, but I've got a sleeping grandbaby. You mind shutting that damn horn off?"
You know,
I said, "Yes, I'll do mine."
that's the other thing that I think that people don't realize how impactful it was, because in my lifetime in this state, we've always played the redheaded stepchild to South Carolina and Clemson.
Mm.
To see the whole entire state, everybody, even them, were pulling for us. I can't tell you how many people in this state I've met over these last 7 or 8 years since we won, that they'll tell me their story of, "Hey man, I'm a South Carolina Gamecock, or I'm a diehard Tiger. Man, for that day, I was a Chanticleer. I got off work. I did this, I mean, it's incredibly cool. It's the one time, because one of them winning, there's always going to be another half of the state that don't want them to win,
Yeah.
For Fritz, for everybody to be pulling for us was an incredible thing, to see the Clemson football team in the weight room going,
Yep.
we won, it was just so many cool things that you made that experience so very special. To honestly, I mean, you look, we were the first one to start the school flags flying over the state house. I mean, that's really a cool thing. I mean, I have that picture right here hanging in my office, and it's one of my most proud things, because I'm sitting there going, I would have never thought we could ever do something like be that impactful in anything we ever did at Coastal, that you actually, you got your flag on the state house, man. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, man. It was. I got the same picture here. I think I remember I may have made a social media post that said Nikki Haley raised the flag and put your teal dress on. It's party time.
I love it. All right, man. Listen, hey,
Coach, thank you.
Listen, anytime y'all want to do this, I'm up for pulling up some more memories. Anytime y'all want to, just holler at me.
Love to do it again.
We got
Love
at least
to.
2 more shows in Coach Gilmore. He's already done one. He said he
At
wanted
least.
to do, and we've got one for him. So that's 2 more Coach Gilmore shows we got coming out of Coach Gilmore.
All right, that's
Thank
a
you,
good
Coach.
deal.
Appreciate it,
Thank
Coach.
you, Coach.
Appreciate you.
Okay. Thanks.
Man, how special was that, man? That's awesome having Coach on, talk about the path with the program, and talk about where we are to date and some guys to look out for and be really excited about. And I know Joe and Chili, y'all have some of your memories too, but man, what an exciting time in 2024 for this baseball team.
It's going to be a fun year coming up, and not just because if we can get close to the expectations, but just because what's out there, what's ahead of us, what the opportunities are that lie ahead for our team is going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just if you don't get a chance to make it to the game, number one, shame on you. But I understand if you can't make it. But at the same time, if you just keep up with this team, I think there's a lot of fun things that are about to happen. A lot of big moments. He talked about on my question when it came to the schedule question. One thing I thought was interesting was he talked about how difficult this schedule is going to be, and from my experience in coaching, either you rise to it or you don't. And if these guys that we have are facing this kind of a challenge this year, and we rise to the occasion more often than not, then we're going to have a really fun season ahead of us this year.
I agree, and I think one of the things I was glad that we were able to touch on with him as he's winding his career up this season is the impact of NIL, the transfer portal, and I can't help but think the onset of all of this kind of had to play something into it too. I think you're seeing some and maybe not. Maybe I'm just making an assumption. I didn't really have a chance to, ask him that directly. Not sure that I would anyway, but he did share some thoughts as to why he's picking this time now to get out. But I can't help but think that, of all the things I know he'll miss, the relationships with his coaches, the players, families and whatnot, fans, everybody else in everybody in the program, this dealing with this new dynamic of NIL and transfer portal. I mean, you heard him talk about it. I mean, it's just, I can't help but think that he will not miss that. And I don't blame him. And I think you see, I think you see some coaches now getting out of it in the last several years because of this kind of stuff. I mean, because it just isn't what it used to be, because there's no real way to, to stop anything right now. And I also found it interesting to say when he said that, if you had everybody on scholarship, if you had 35 kids and they're all on scholarship, for the most part, they'd stay home. And I think he's right about that. I mean, I think for us, NIL would play a piece of it, but I don't think it would be, it would be the biggest thing. I don't think it's, the biggest thing. I think if you had kids on scholarship and they were getting, what that affords, and they were playing and they were happy here, they'd stay here. But that's not the way it is right now. But love the conversation.
Some good
Coach.
thoughts. That was a good take on what he said. I hadn't thought about it the way he described it, which was something that, because we talked about it in here, primarily with football for the last 2 seasons for us. But when he talked about it in a baseball sense, plus with his years of experience in coaching, it just was a different way of looking at it. And I appreciate that viewpoint. I think that's a really good thing to bring up.
Yeah, I love that when that he talked about that.
Yeah, the portal and NIL are going to continue to be impactful. And we touched on that, like you said, the Alabamas and Georgias in football, the Kentuckys and Dukes in basketball, the top 10 in baseball. They're going to see the challenges there. I listening to him more about moving away from the 11.7 to, even if it's 25 scholarships, like doubling it to the best of your ability. 25 scholarships in baseball would massively change the landscape of college baseball, and I think it would slow down some portal kids. It would slow down some NIL stuff, because again, people don't realize that. You get 85 scholarships on about a 100-person football team, right? You get 11.7 for about 35 to 40 kids on a baseball team. Let that sink in, man. That's based on how many you have, that could be 1/4 to 1/3 of your team has the ability to have financial funding and their support. And that's, whereas on a football team, again, like Coach said, I'm a pro football guy, but I'm a pro baseball guy, right? I'm a pro coastal guy, if you will. But you get my point, is like, it's these two sports, like even basketball, the proportion of scholarships to total players is exceptionally higher than that of baseball. And it's always been an interesting fact why baseball, even softball. My dad coached softball for 23 or 4 years. They were the same way. He had to disperse 11 scholarships, whatever, over about a 20 to 22, 3-4 young lady team. It just doesn't make any sense why the NCAA doesn't go back and revisit this and maybe allow some reallocation or doing some different funding mechanisms. But what I heard was, and this is what I was getting to as I tee all that up, is time, talent, treasure. You gotta look. I understand right now there's a football NIL that they're trying to work through where the next stage is, next path is, next option is on that. It'll be figured out. But there is one for baseball. And now is the time to strike it while it's rich, man. Right now. Get involved, get engaged. We're going to have the Legacy 14 guys on and some of their players on in the course of this year. We're going to get the staff on, the rest of the staff on as well. So each week we're going to try to do that as we build up to the season as well through the season. Try to get some of those guys on that are part of the Legacy 14. And what a name, too. I think those guys did a great job, Legacy 14. So Coach Gilmore's legacy is always there beyond just everything that you hear, feel, and see. Lastly, Legacy 14 has the Legacy 14 Lager that is now at about 9 or 10 coastal alumni-owned or operated establishments in the Grand Strand area. I thought that was pretty cool. They had their launch last Friday. I was unable to get my 12-ounce curl in. However, I was told that they tapped every single keg of Legacy beer within 24 hours. So for those that don't realize, anytime you buy that beer, a portion of those proceeds will go back to the NIL. So if there's one thing that Brian Quigley and rest of Teal Nation can do, we like drinking beer. So drink a lot of Legacy 14 beer, and that way you can help the NIL while also helping yourself.
There's got to be a slogan. I'm going to work on something for that. Men's basketball will be in action tomorrow night, February 1st at James Madison. Women's basketball will be in action tomorrow night, also at home, HTC Center against Georgia Southern. Joe, TD hit on something I want to run by you. And if I'm in the Carolina Forest area and I'm looking to get my hands on one of those Legacy 14 beers, can you recommend a place to go to make that happen?
Gilly, I absolutely can recommend a place. The best place, the only place that you need to go for that is Hanley's Pub, CCU class of 2002, the official pub of the Strut podcast, located in Carolina Forest. We will CC you at your local pub, Hanley's in Carolina Forest, 3873 Renee Drive, Myrtle Beach, 843-903-4904. Go in there and see my daughter, Sarah. Tell her she's annoying and she'll take care of you. Hanley's Pub, CCU class of 2002, the official pub of the Strut podcast.
And TD, let's say you have one too many Legacy 14 brews and you've got your phone out and you're looking to buy something because you got a lot of confidence, got some money to burn, and you want to invest in real estate after you've been drinking at Hanley's. Can you recommend someone that a Coastal fan should maybe reach out to in that state?
Well, I do, and I tell you what, that's Dan Sign at Dunes Realty Sales, real estate done right. He will clear up the blurriness of your foggy left over from the Legacy 14 loggers after you have 14 of them. 14 Legacy 14 loggers. Don't do that. By the way, if you do
Strut
that,
podcast does not advocate drinking 14.
yeah, we're not advocating for that. Get an Uber, get a friend, get a fellow Strutty to take you home. All right. Dan Sign, class of 2001, Dan Sign Dudes Realty, real estate done right at 128 Atlantic Avenue down there in Surfside. Again, it's dansignrealty.com, toll free at 888-889-9312. And we appreciate all that Dan does as well as our other sponsors. But I'll tell you what, though, Chili, but after you've sat at that bar stool and after you've sat at the Palace in those comfortable seats, well, you sit through a good 3 or 4 hour ball game, you're like, God, man, you know what? I kind of may need a little back work and need my shoulder worked on. I got a little knot in my back. I got a little twinge in my neck. Where's a fellow alum's business that you can go and maybe get the kinks out?
Well, if you've drank 14 beers in Hanley's and bought real estate, then you probably need to go to AA. But after that, call David Turner, CCU class of 97 of Impact Chiropractic. He's been practicing in Conway for 20 years. Dr. Turner believes in a proactive, wellness-based approach, probably sober, to achieving optimal health and function for the entire family. At Impact Chiropractic, we work hard to grow healthy kids rather than fix damaged adults. 210 Singleton Ridge Road in Conway, impactchiro.com. 843-347-9103. Joe, you've been drinking, you've gotten your real estate, you've been adjusted from sitting on those seats forever. So, Joe, my question to you is, let's say you get an idea in your drunken state and you want to get that idea out to someone. Who would you call to maybe market that idea to the masses?
Well, if I can manage it, I'm calling Bob Baldwin, CCU class of 2011. When you think Coastal and your marketing needs, think Coastal Marketing. Go see Bob Baldwin at Coastal Marketing. Coastal Marketing is the official merchandise supporter of the Strut Podcast, 475 Sandy Lane, Suite A, Surfside Beach, 29575. You can call Bob Baldwin, 843-349-4848, www.coastalmarketinggraphics.com. When you think Coastal and your marketing needs, think Coastal Marketing.
So you're wearing that Coastal stuff, TD, and you've done all your marketing, you've got your real estate, you've been adjusted, you've been to Hanley's. TD, maybe you call your buddies up and you're still in this great mood. You've gotten all your stuff. You want to wear your new stuff you got from Bob Baldwin, and you want to get together and maybe have a little friendly competition, maybe out on the links. Maybe at one of the places that could be hosting the Strut. But TD, can you kind of direct us to a place where we could do that?
There are a number of places along the Grand Strand, owned and operated, operated and managed by Coastal alumni at Myrtle Beach Family Golf. It's golf fun for everyone. Plush premium carpet out there, boys. I mean, plush and premium good carpet. They've got fresh paint on the dinosaurs. They've got Captain Hook's new hat. They're good to go. I'll tell you what, at Jungle Safari, Jurassic Golf, Shipwreck Island, and Captain Hook's Adventure, and Cane Pass driving range, you can take your Legacy 14 logger, your brand new strut hat, you bought a home or a condo through Dan and them, right? You got your back adjusted to go kick some ass on the putt-putt course, right? So here's what we're going to do. We'll get you out at one of those 4 locations. And if you really want to think you're somebody special, you just walk down to Cane Pass driving range right there on 74th Avenue in the heart of Myrtle Beach and try to outdrive your friends. But I would suggest, if you're going to do it, slightly sober up a little bit, because you don't want to hit a house like Joe and Chili do when they go driving ranges. So just don't do that.
I have yet to hit a house.
The
Thank you very
strut
much.
the strut putt is starting to get some legs, gentlemen. We have to seriously talk about this. If we got 30 seconds, so listeners, the strut putt, we're trying to do this. We're scary to say this. We're going to try to do it sooner than later, maybe somewhere around the spring game, something like that. No guarantees, but we have gotten a great response. Thank you all for that. We're going to need your help, though, because we have no clue what we're doing when it comes to putting together a putt-putt tournament. But we've gotten so many great I've gotten so much great feedback on, you could do 2-man teams or 2-lady teams, by the way. You could go all men, all women. You could do men and women. Doesn't matter. We're thinking about doing like a bogey max, things like Brian Quigley is going to do a shotgun bat beer to start off and then we have a flyover with a banner plane. I mean, it's going to be classic Myrtle.
We should get a drone that flies over and like put some kind of like strut banner flapping behind the drone. Joe, what do you think?
I think that's a fabulous idea. We'll figure this out. We're going to put this on. We don't know when yet,
this
but
is
we're gonna have it. Don't know when yet, but we're gonna have this thing. Can't
I think
wait.
the moral of the story, when we went through leaving Hanley's, Joe and TD, and going through that whole scenario with the plugs of our friends and stuff, is good things happen when you drink Legacy 14 beer, right?
This is true. This is also true.
Yes, it is.
So, hey,
Yep.
Teal Nation, Strut Nation, Chili has something to say.
I was going to say the show's over.
Chili has nothing to say. He has nothing to say.
I'm good. I actually am good.
Hey, well, Chili, I'm gonna steal your thunder a little bit, only because I love you, gentlemen.
Steal away.
Can I get a shots up?
Oh, you may have a shots up.
Shots up.
Strut putt coming soon.